I am so excited that today you get to hear from Mary-Rose and Ryan Verret, who have taken on marriage ministry in a big way in the United States and across the globe. And so not only do I want you to hear more about their own story, but I want you to find out more about all of the amazing resources that they offer. So welcome, Ryan and Mary-Rose.
Thank you.
Good to be with you, Rhonda.
Yeah.
So I would love to know a little bit more about you before we jump into the marriage ministry. So tell us a little bit about you. How did you grow up? Is it a big Catholic family? All the things.
You were? Yeah.
So I'm from a family of 8 children, and I grew up in Virginia, and I went to Christendom College, and I definitely knew a lot of people who considered religious life. I consider religious life myself as well. I went on the nun runs, and it was a lot of fun. It was really beautiful. But it's so funny that like the people who went on the nun runs, they got married, and the people who didn't go on the nun runs, they joined the convent. So I did notice that. But it really was beautiful in the Diocese of Arlington, where I live. That there was really, I would say, equal attention given to those considering religious life, male or female, and those considering the vocation of the priesthood. So that was just Father Brian Bashista was the priest at the time, and just he really also was helpful even in just the discernment of marriage. So it's great when there's awesome priests out there who are really helping people truly discern all of the vocations.
Yeah, we live in outside of Lafayette, Louisiana, and a little small town. I grew up here. Actually, where we live is sort of the area I grew up on. My mom, my grandfather, great-grandfather's just been an area that our families had deep roots in.
This is family land.
Yeah, and very much a kind of a Catholic background for sure, Catholic culture type of thing. I went to public school my whole life, and
I was homeschooled.
And and so we were definitely raised Catholic, and but I think as anyone who grew up in the kind of during the 90s. I think there was definitely a sort of a break in the kind of the strong sense of faith, I think, and definitely a part of the generation that was influenced by that and disconnected. But, it was later on in life, though. It was during my confirmation year in high school. I think I had somewhat of a conversion and a grace given to me that opened up opportunity for discernment. I actually went into the seminary for a few years. And seminary college, and St. Benedict's then in Louisiana was formed by the Benedictine monks a little bit, and it was really a great time and a great experience. But but I think with regards to marriage, it was later on, or even during the time that I knew clearly that I was being called to the sacrament of matrimony, covenant of holy matrimony. So. Which is definitely a part of what we're talking about in our work here today. So yes. But I was one of four boys, grew up in a Catholic family, So.
Awesome. So tell me how did you meet? What was that courtship like?
I was finishing grad school in Boston at the time, and was going to be in the DC area, considering a psychology program, and while I was there, I was living in a Catholic household with some other guys, grad school age guys. The power went off, kind of a short story. When I first got there in January, an ice storm, realized the 4th day out of these kind of 5 days with no power, icy cold, wet Virginia weather, which is really gross, that the church happened to have power, and it was unlocked during the night. And just about an hour away. So I walked to the church.
An hour walking.
I mean, about an hour. Well, maybe just a mile and a half. Yeah, I guess through the snow. It wasn't a long walk.
You probably slid down the hill.
But I was going to go sleep under the pew in the choir room. Believe it or not, I see this priest approached me. I see these black shoes on my face. And he's like, "Hey, what's going on there?" He thought it was some homeless guy because I wasn't really integrated to the parish yet. But I came out, we started talking. I guess he realized that I had something else to say, but he said, "Well, look, I'm going over to dinner with these girls, living together. These young ladies, Catholic ladies.
They have big Catholic parties all the time.
Catholic parties, and so why don't you come?" So when I walked to the house, it was filled with still Christmas lights and nice drinks and warm air, and they had electricity, and there was this damsel in distress.
I was not in distress.
Smashing potatoes, mashing potatoes at the stove, and
he still gets the warm fuzzies when I'm mashing potatoes at the stove.
So, but first time I saw Mary-Rose, she was mashing potatoes.
So a match made over mashing potatoes.
Yes.
A match over mashing. Yeah.
A very domestic experience.
Oh.
So tell us I mean, I really want to know, was your faith central to that discernment of marriage, while you were dating and engaged? What did that look like?
Well, we were friends for 2 years before we even started dating, although we refer to it as the time when we were dating, not dating, because we were hanging out with friends, and basically the things that we both found we both enjoyed, not everybody else enjoyed them. And so Ryan would say, hey, let's go, everybody, let's go meet at the church. And on Saturday morning, we're going to go biking through DC and go to the Cherry Blossom Festival. And everybody say, yay, I'm there. Saturday morning, 7 a.m., I'm the only one there because I wanted to do it. And so and I wanted to spend time with Ryan, so that was a big perk. And so over and over those 2 years, we kept realizing, well, we're the only two that really enjoy this or that. And actually the priest who introduced us, who brought Ryan over that night, was Father Francis DeRosa, who I think you've had on your podcast or done something you had conversations with, but he's just a wonderful priest.
Good.
And so he's the one who introduced us, and he's been friends ever since. But we were friends, and then we started dating. And then actually Ryan said he wanted to date, and I said, I don't want to date. We've been friends for 2 years. How about we talk about marriage and do courtship if we're, really going to do this? And so
it was interesting that we had actually kind of created a very organic little Catholic community.
Mm-hmm.
She lived in a household with several young Catholic ladies. I was in a sort of household with young Catholic men. And so, guys get hungry, food is love. So I thought of this idea, what if the girls can cook for the guys like once a week and stuff?
No, we took turns.
No, we took turns.
The girls were better cooks.
Yeah, and so we started this almost kind of weekly or a couple times a month, this sort of dinner party. And it was really a lot of fun. There was a lot of young kind of Catholic, young adults sort of scene, and priests would come over and seminarians, and it became like the annual go-to place. But from that, I think several marriages came out of, which is, but it was very much in that John Paul II kind of feeling of things, where we were, just enjoying kind of Catholic fellowship. And obviously it sort of was the background for our wedding and many marriages that came from that group.
And all those people came to our wedding.
Yeah.
And the priests too. I think we had 7 priests.
So really, that was a really, really fun time. I would say anybody kind of discerning marriage, it's sort of, you really need a sort of culture of sort of friendship and sort of fidelity to be a part of that helps you, I think, to make some clear discernment on things.
Amen to that.
Any vocation.
Yeah, sure. And so how long have you been married now?
11 and a half years.
Yeah, 11 years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have how many kids?
5.
5 kids in 11 and a half years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Do the math.
It's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. But you don't look tired, which is incredible.
The second cup of coffee.
So tell us about, so from all of this experience and, then your dive into the church, for 11 and a half years that you have been married. And so you founded Witness to Love, a marriage movement. Why is that? Why is it needed? Why is that important?
I think not everyone grew up in families where their parents were married. Not everyone grew up with community or even going to church. And, that sort of community aspect that we mentioned, just having, these households of friends and having priests over, a lot of people, just haven't ever experienced that. And they don't even know that it's something that they should be hungry for. But once people experience, being in a home, being with a family, seeing sort of what the domestic church looks like and sounds like and, feels like, and by the way, that's includes, like Ryan always says, the domestic church bells are like, babies crying for bedtime, right? And they don't always ring at the right time. And so But when people are considering getting married, a lot of young people today are afraid of marriage. They're stressed out at even the thought of marriage. And then when they do get married, they really don't have a roadmap. They say, well, I don't really want a marriage like my parents. My parents worked too much, or they got divorced, or, there's always something, I think I know what I want, but I don't really know what it looks like. And I don't have anyone to show it to me. And Witness Love basically came from the understanding that you can't just prepare couples for marriage with a one-day conference, or forced fun meetings with couples that they don't know, covering very personal content. It's really kind of an oil and water approach. And so we saw that the big conferences and the forced fun model of mentoring, where they're with a couple that they don't know and they may never see again and they don't connect with, that the church has beautiful teaching that needs to be proposed, but there wasn't any way to accompany them after the wedding day. There wasn't any way for them to really see what the domestic church looks and feels like, and they really need that accompaniment. So it's a very short way of saying that true accompaniment has to be real, not virtual. You can't accompany someone in a classroom. You can't accompany someone in an office, right? It has to be in the home. And so our focus is open the doors to the domestic church. Let couples considering marriage or engaged to be married come into the home and see what it's like, but do it with couples they trust and admire. And even if they only can say, oh, this couple was my confirmation sponsor, or I used to babysit for this couple, or this was my football coach and his wife, they seem like they had a great relationship. If they can just think of that couple and bring that couple to the church, Witness to Love is basically has a model for forming those two couples to walk together. It's a 2-for-1 evangelization. So it's not just, sort of passing the couples through, right? It's really focused on deep personal formation for both couples.
With the priest in mind too.
Yes,
the priest has to be a part of this, which I love, because in yes. other, especially when we're talking about marriage prep, there's that there may be one conversation with the priest. You check the boxes, right? You check the boxes with the priest. And then the rest of the time you're with this forced sponsor couple most of the time. That's how we were. Yes. And then you never see this couple again, like you said, because many of us aren't at really small parishes where we would see them again. So I agree with this wholeheartedly, that we need this accompaniment and modeled mentorship, this mentorship happening for marriages.
Yeah, if you look at our logo, you'll see that in the heart of it is a priest. I think Witness to Love is an experience that's rooted in the incarnational sacramental approach of the church that comes from the heart of Christ. And actually, for your audience, which sort of the vocation, people think vocations, oftentimes they probably think of priesthood and religious life, but we have a lot of friends who are heads of religious congregations or vocation directors, and they've expressed something that we all just assume is part of the general conversation, that many young people are coming from homes where marriage was really weak, or there was no marriage, or a divorce. And, those things have real consequences on the lives of young people. And so the family, marriage is the most kind of basic sort of formational building block. It's like we say a seminary. I think we say like a faminary, like a family, vocations. I mean, sheep produce shepherds. And it's where it comes from. And the more, I think, John Paul II, indicated that the more we kind of support marriage, the more we form good marriages in the church. I mean, it really is a source of renewal across the board, from not only the clergy or religious life, but just the parish life in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Witness to Love, it's a movement, because it's a movement, it's a renewal movement that comes, from we love this quote from John of the Cross: love being repaid by love alone. It's sort of in generosity and kindness and modeling Christ's role in family life that, this kind of, this renewal comes about.
And I think there was a recent study done that I saw about vocations, since I live in vocation world too, is that that 86%, it was a really high number of seminarians, come from intact families. that keeping the sacraments
Yeah.
close. So when they're all connected, they're all connected.
Yeah.
And I just think that so many, you're right. So many people, when they say the word vocation is mentioned, they think priesthood. And I'm a champion of marriage, because if we don't have strong marriages, then we won't have strong families, and we won't have, I mean, not only do they need to be strong for their own sake, but for the fact that the future of our church depends on a strong domestic church and strong shepherds and sisters and brothers. So we need all of them.
Yeah.
And definitely, when we do the trainings, we always we speak to the witness level kind of logo, and we say, don't forget the man in black, right? The men in black, they are integral to the process. And there's a lot of times there's pushback from sort of people running things at the parish, not necessarily the priest, but from people kind of, just organizing things and ordering things and scheduling things. And they say, we don't want to bother Father because he's busy. And we say, look, the witness love process maximizes Father's time, Father's impact, and Father's ability to be what only he can be to these couples, Christ. That's why he has to be the first person to meet with them, because many of these couples haven't been to church since confirmation. They got their confirmation, as sort of like a finishing award is the way that they saw it for CCD, and then they're done. And now they're coming back to church, and they're worried about being judged and all this. So Father has to be kind of the face of Christ, challenging them, engaging them, welcoming them, listening for opportunities to really for healing. But then we also have what we call the theology discussion night, where Father goes into the mentor couple's home, has a meal, the engaged couples there, and we have sort of a framework for conversation. But it's all about healing and renewing and connecting these couples to the church. And priests, they love that. That's just like the highlight. They said, I had no idea I could actually enjoy marriage prep. One priest told us last week, he said, this is all I ever thought marriage, like it's all I ever dreamed of. And like, I've been a priest all these years, and I finally get to experience an enjoyable experience of marriage prep. I was like, wow, it should be enjoyable.
And not only that, so that's the marriage prep side, but you've got all of these other initiatives that are taking off, and all these couples who are married are taking part in, because the vast majority of parishes do not have any program whatsoever to support currently married couples. Like, yes, 95% of parishes have nothing.
It's amazing. It's astounding at kind of what gets put on the back burner, and it's always marriage, and it's always family life. Everything else usually gets priority, but I think people think, families are self-sufficient, they're a family, they're intact, they do their thing. But families need families, and families need the church, and the church needs families. And so like it has to kind of all go together. And so the series, most recent initiative is we basically put together a 5-year, it's called Be Light. And it's a 5-year, it's intended for after the 5 years after the wedding day, but it's really for any couple at any point. But we are right now in what we call the year of belonging. So it's year 1 of the 5 years, and helping couples connect to the church community, to each other, and to Christ. And it's just been so powerful. And that's the first link on our website is Be Light. But it's been wonderful.
Well, we need more of it too. I mean, I know you also have a civilly married initiative too, because I think that there are so many people who did not get married in the church that would highly benefit from coming back into the fold and having this rich experience.
Yeah, that definitely speaks to where the time that we're in. Many pastors we speak with in parishes will say that the number of sacramental marriages is really dropping, but the number of civilly married couples is rising. I think it's really important for us to recognize that this time that we live in is not business as usual for the mm-hmm. church. I think we're probably much more in a pre-evangelization type of area, like where we're working on kind of some of the relationships, natural law, for lack of better words, like just a natural ordering that God destined so that we can really discern clearly. But I think there are couples who, were married in kind of a world of just being disconnected from so many amazing institutions like the church. It's more than an institution, but just reality. And I think they are seeing that they want that. They want more for their children than just and their families than just what the culture is presenting. So Christ and the church is a great opportunity now to distinguish itself. And I think what Witness to Love is positioned to be truly, or the homes of couples to be missionary outposts of the local parish. So we can't rely on the parish alone. I think a lot of credibility has been lost in the church in the United States. But still, God is real active, and Christ will continue to operate. The doors, the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, as Scripture, Christ clearly says. But in supporting marriages, we have an opportunity to connect with some of those people outside and bring them back in.
Mm-hmm.
Amen to that. So how can anybody listening who wants to know anything about either marriage prep or any of your initiatives, where can they find that?
Right, well, our website is probably the best place at witnesstolove.org, witnesstolove.org. All the initiatives, everything can be linked to from that homepage. You can introduce Witness to Love to your parish. There's a link at the top. We have virtual processes for engaged couples to kind of be coached and Skyped to work with the mentor couple that they choose. I mean, there's so many beautiful things. We also have a podcast, but everything's there on that page, and we welcome couples from anywhere. We have a lot of priests that are also going through our year of Be Light and Belonging. They said they're getting so much out of it as well. So anyone is welcome to be a part of it.
Well, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much, Ryan and Mary-Rose, for being part of this and to sharing about your heart, your family, your courtship, and about this incredible ministry. God bless both of you.
Thank you,
God
Rhonda.
bless you, Rhonda.